Executors, a special unit within the ranks of Hycros. The MC that we create is an executor themselves, and in this video we're going to talk about a pair of executors who have a good history with each other, and whose friendship outweighs their duty to Hycros. The executors, Samir and Huma. Now I could talk about them separately, but their story is kinda intertwined with each other, so I put them both in one video, but we are still missing the last piece, which is Huma's storyline. This video will cover some story spoilers for Samir's questline, so if you want to enjoy that on your own, feel free to click off now. In the past, both Huma and Samir lived in Banjis, and they grew up together as childhood friends, almost akin to sisters. They were then known as Peach and Flora. They were both eccentric in a way. Samir, or Peach, was energetic and friendly, but also a bit of a loner and rude at the same time, while Flora, or Huma, was frail but also unusually strong, like literally strong. Both children were brought up by Granny Lucy in Banjis. Over time, it became clear that Flora's frail state was caused by an illness. She would easily tire, and it would seem that her body overexerted itself even doing simple actions. But weirdly enough, it was clear on how or why Flora's body was overexerting itself. As you see, Flora possessed immense uncontrollable strength. She would be able to break glass cups when trying to grab it. She would punch through steel walls. She could even carry things that normally would be too heavy for children or even adults. She could carry vehicles like it was nothing. And while this strength would seem like a blessing, to her, it was also a curse. She could not do things on her own, as things she handled would easily break. She would scare the other children, as playing with her could cause injury. And worst of all, her body overexerted itself by virtue of her frail body not being able to handle her physical strength, making her stamina quite low for a child. Due to this, she would be ostracized as a child, and her only friend would be Peach. Now Peach would be the opposite of Flora. She would have friends, be energetic, and be adventurous. But despite this, she would always stay by Flora's side, protecting her from bullies and making sure she never gets lonely. This would last until her adulthood, making them very, very close friends. Now, both of them would decide to join Hycros, but with different goals in mind. Peach would seek thrill and adventure within Hycros, while Flora would take advantage of Hycros' vast medical facilities to help her with her condition. Upon their entry into Hycros, they would be known as Samir and Huma. They would still be close with each other even while working under Hycros, but missions would often leave them separated for quite some time. While both of them became executors, Huma would often stay behind due to her weak stamina and would be assigned to training newcomers, while medical teams of Hycros would examine her thoroughly. Her illness was one so unique that even Hycros with their most advanced medical facilities struggled to cure or even examine the illness. One thing was for sure though, the illness was getting worse. Huma agreed to all sorts of medical procedures, old procedures to even new ones and untested ones. One could even say that it was thanks to her that a lot of discoveries in the medical field were made, and advancement of medicine within Hycros would solely depend on if they were able to help Huma or not. Unfortunately, things would take a turn for the worse as Huma's illness would worsen and her days would be spent in bed, and her condition would not get any better and things would look a little bleak for her. So in order to save her life, Hycros proposed to use the simulacrum system and the mimicry system. Now I won't get into too much details about this as I already made a video about the simulacrum system, so if you want to learn more about that, go check it out in that video. In any case, the experiment was sort of a failure as the consciousness and the body would be separated, and attempting to place the consciousness into a new body would be met with violent rejection from the mind. Thus, Huma would be placed into a coma for a while. During this time, Samir would catch wind of what had happened. Huma's consciousness, while separated, would actively work within the simulacrum system, allowing other executors and scientists to access her mind for the time being. Samir, having returned from a mission, would return to Hycros to find Huma, but would find someone who only looks like her. someone who has the same face but a different mind. She would find those who had access to the mimicry system to be borrowing the face of Huma whilst her friend would lay in a coma. Upset and enraged by this, she would demand for Huma's whereabouts, but the researchers wouldn't say as she was within a hidden facility. Armed with this knowledge, Samir would plot her prank. Let's talk about Samir for a bit. Samir is well versed in computers, a hotshot in combat, and an overall top-tier executor, often mentioned as one of the best. New recruits would often read about her exploits and skills that many would relish any opportunity to work with her. That is, until they actually work with her. Unfortunately, what stops her from being the best is her attitude towards working with others. She vehemently dislikes working with others, and well, others would come to dislike working with her as well. But this would still put her among the top ranks of the executors in skill alone, and it would still earn her access to systems beyond those of the lower tier executors, including access to the simulacrum system, which she would exploit in order to find and rescue her friend Huma. She would find and swap out the data codenamed T04 from the simulacrum system, causing the researchers to find cause for alarm. Dr. Joaquin would request assistance from you, an executor, to help track down Samir in order to retrieve the T04 data. While visiting Samir's cabin in Banjis, we would come across another executor on the same mission, an executor named Huma. Though we are unaware of the true nature of Huma at this moment. After a series of pranks brought about by Samir, we would eventually come across the hidden research facility that was targeted by Samir in the first place. And upon reaching the depths of this facility, we would find not only Samir, but Huma as well, who was locked inside a vat, unconscious and in a coma. Samir reveals to us that she was mimicked as Huma the entire time that she was with us. And as the curtains fall, we're forced to retreat from the facility as it was primed to blow up. Upon returning to Hykros, however, we find that the self-destruct sequence was cancelled at the last minute, and the facility itself was fine. The only thing that was taken was the data of T04. After an unspecified amount of time, Hykros would be able to cure Huma's body and would once again put her body and consciousness back together. She would awaken from her long coma, and while her illness is still there, it would no longer pose as a fatal threat to her, and she would still be able to keep the super strength that she possessed as a bonus, but it would still require some therapy and time in order for her body to get used to it. Unfortunately though, an unseen side effect of this was that she lost all her memories and personality. Huma would be a blank shell, and though fragments of her personality would sometimes still show, she would never recover her memory, and all she would know from this point forward was Hykros. Due to this, Hykros would dedicate resources to her recovery, and all Huma would know is the medical researchers of Hykros. The researchers would take care of her and provide her with the things she needed. Luckily though, she still retained her intelligence. Her intelligence would make relearning all that she forgot rather easy. The researchers were hopeful that after some time she could return to living a normal life, a life before Hykros. But in a turn of events, she decided against this, instead choosing to become an executor once again, as she accepted that she would never be able to recover all her memories, and even after the researchers explained everything that has happened, she could not help but feel reassured and grateful for their help. She genuinely wished to continue to become an executor solely to pay back the kindness that Hykros has shown her. Huma now continues to work for Hykros as one of its top executors. And as for Samir, well, after her disappearance, not much more is known. But perhaps these two will reunite once more. Hopefully they'll remember the life that they had as Peach and Flora. But that's it. What do you guys think about Peach and Flora's storyline, or Samir and Huma's? I think it was pretty good actually, but there's this weird timeline shift in that if you already have Huma, then you would know that she's already awake, but in the story quest, she's still inside the capsule. What do you guys think about Samir and Huma's storyline though? Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and as always, thank you for watching.